YouTube Ozic Owen, the Goat House is back with the best offensive fit for every single NFL team on day one of the NFL draft. We'll even talk about the teams that don't have a day one pick. We'll do a separate video for defensive player fits. But yeah, not necessarily predictions on a mock draft, but just the best fits for these teams on the offense side of the ball for day one. Full NFL draft coverage here. We'll even be live during day one. We'll have winners, losers, grades videos throughout the NFL draft and a lot of talk on Twitter. So join us for all of the NFL draft content. Starting with the Bears, who have the 1st and the 9th pick. Could have easily put Caleb Williams because they're going to take Caleb Williams here, but not doing that. You know, who is the best fit for them? It's also somewhat realistic they can land. Then maybe Malik Nabers for me. And will he be there at 9? I think it's a possibility. They may have to move up if they really, really want him. But either way, if they end up with him or not, to me, this is the best fit other than that quarterback spot at 1. And that a lot of it's because of Shane Waldron, who they hired from the Seattle Seahawks offense coordinator, and now the Bears offensive coordinator. And honestly, you could argue, you can make a case for Nabers' teammate, Brian Thomas Jr., who's actually a lot different. But because I'm not a big comparisons guy, I think everyone's their own guy, but I do have a comparison on Brian Thomas Jr., and it's DK Metcalf, who played for Shane Waldron. And it's like a type of player the Bears really don't have right now. So you can make that case, but I think that the type of receivers that really thrive for Shane Waldron are the guys that can play, you know, Lockett, JSN, which Waldron had a big say on drafting JSN last year. Really good in the slot, but also can play outside. Really good separators. You know, they create space. They get over, you know, in traffic in the middle of the field. You know, find the soft spots and zones through there. A lot of Lockett, JSN type players. To me, that those are like the prime players in Waldron's offense. And out of all the top guys, that's Nabers in the first round of the draft. There may be receivers that are better day one or maybe not, but he's kind of the one of the kind out of, I'd say, the top 5 clear-cut round 1 receivers. So DJ Moore plays a lot in the outside, but he'll play a little bit in the slot. Keenan Allen, a lot of time in the slot. You know, so that's the type of players they're looking for there, and Keenan Allen not going to be around forever. So I thought Nabers, like if I had to pick, say Bears, which one stands out, which player stands out the most as a fit, I'm definitely saying Nabers there. So about the Commanders, I think Drake May, I think that's who they take. Again, this isn't a mock draft or prediction, but a lot of people think Jaden Daniels, and some people will argue Jaden Daniels is a fit. His scrambling ability for that Kingsbury offense, you know, the rollout ability, I can understand it, but to me, Drake May is the best fit. You know, the prototypical quarterback that works today, prototypical size. Remember Kingsbury coach Patrick Mahomes, who has that prototypical size. He's maybe looking for that next guy like that. Obviously it didn't work out in Arizona because he lost his job. And May is kind of sneaky. You know, he's a pocket passer that can air it out. That's what Kingsbury wants. And he's sneaky, being able to escape, make a big play with his legs. And then you factor in Dan Quinn, some comparisons, a little bit of comparisons to Matt Ryan with May. So a style quarterback that maybe Quinn would like. And then Anthony Lynn's there as well, who definitely deserves some credit for Justin Herbert in his instant progression when they drafted him in LA. So, and there's been some comparisons, and I see some of those comparisons for Drake May. So there's just so many connections, you know, and it just makes sense as like a true pocket passer, prototypical pocket passer, for the Commanders, who have weapons. You know, they got running backs. They got Terry McLaurin, John Dotson there. It just, to me, Drake May fits what they're trying to do there. So that's actually, I think, a perfect fit. So happens to be a guy they very well may take. If they take Daniels, you can argue the fit as well. I think May's just much better as, you know, who was the better college quarterback? You could definitely say Daniels last year, but you have to see what translate to the NFL. You have to be able to scout to, you know, how these players will be in the NFL, and I think it's easily Drake May there. Next, the Patriots. I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr., and I guess you can debate different things. You know, if Drake May's on the board, you go with him. I would. Not really this video, though. You know, I don't know if there's a quarterback that said, like, I'm sure they can fit. You know, when it comes to quarterback, to me, you just take the best one, especially if you're in a position like the Patriots. But I don't know if there's a quarterback that says, like, yes, that is a Patriots fit with their new coaching staff. Well, Mayo getting promoted, but Alex Van Pelt is from the Browns coming over, being that coach. There isn't a quarterback that's like, yes, that is a Patriots guy. Don't really get that feeling. They could take Joe Alt too. I definitely think he would fit. But I almost went with alt because I do think, some of the blocking schemes they had at Notre Dame is kind of, a lot of inside zone and gap, what the Patriots been doing as well. But again, they do bring in a new offense coordinator. But I look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Patriots have a ton of, I want to say a ton of receivers. I mean, they have some receivers that they don't have that true number one, but they have some decent receivers, but they all feel like slot receivers. I thought, Douglas, how shifty he is, he can play inside or out, but Bourne's much better in the slot. Osborne, I thought when he was in Minnesota, I thought he played better when he was in the slot versus outside, but can do both. They need not only a number one receiver, but they need an outside guy. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. But, Van Pelt looking for that, he's coming from the Browns, looking for that Amari Cooper type receiver, and maybe there's some similarities there at Marvin Harrison Jr., so I thought that made the best sense as a fit. That's also somewhat of a realistic pick for the Patriots. Whether at 3, do they move back a little bit, get ballsy and possibly get him? We'll see. I don't think you can move back and get him, but that's not mocked enough. What do they just stay put at 3 and just take maybe the best player available, and it's a receiver here? Definitely not against that. Cardinals, same thing. And again, I did this video in the past. I've done it in the past, and people were confused that I had the same player. It's not a mock draft. The teams could have the same best fit. They're all fighting over the same guy. It makes perfect sense. But I kind of debated with myself on this one, though. Harrison Jr. or Rome Odunze. Both best outside receivers in this draft class. Someone that would work really well at Kyler Murray, especially on the deep ball if he has to throw one up for grabs, contested catchers here. And then both had some comparisons to, you see shades of like a DeAndre Hopkins in both their games, and obviously that was Kyler Murray's receiver at one point. But we'll go Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the tiebreaker being that's maybe a little bit more likely to be the pick, so that'd be the tiebreaker. But we're not predicting the pick here. It's just based on watching tape and scheme and what range of the draft they're in. These are the best fits offensively. So I went Marvin Harrison Jr. once again here for the Cardinals. For the Chargers, I'm going to go Malik Neighbors. There is an offensive lineman fit that I really like. A lot of people mocking Joe Alt there, and it definitely could be the case. I mean, the best offensive lineman in the draft, they can definitely take him. Could be the case, like I said. But J.C. Latham seems like a Harbaugh type guy. He actually tried to recruit him too, but right at right tackle, which they need more than left, physical blocker, mauler in the run game. It just seems like a Harbaugh offensive type of guy. But I do think their best fit is Malik Neighbors. I mean, they're out of receivers, and they have one of the best quarterbacks in football. And he can deal with the protection that he has now. They're pretty solid in the interior. Rashawn Slater's pretty solid. They could use an upgrade at right tackle, but I don't know. I don't think they're dying to upgrade one spot on the offensive line. To me, they badly need a receiver for their star quarterback, and they got rid of their star of the last how many years in Keenan Allen, who was, again, dominated from the slot, but also played outside. So I think Neighbors, if someone's going to fill that role of a do-it-all type guy, I think Neighbors makes the most sense there to get open on every level of the field for Justin Herbert. So I'm going to go with him as definitely the best fit for the Chargers. But J.C. Latham makes a lot of sense. It just that people might view that a little early. I really don't. Not too early. Could you trade back and get him? I think, scenario where they trade back with the Vikings and get him at 11. I could definitely see that. Next, the Giants. I'm going to go Rome Odunze on this one. They badly need an outside receiver. They've been looking for one for so long. That's kind of that last piece for that, for that offense if everyone's healthy, because they feel like they have Jones can play like, if he's healthy, can play like he did 2 years ago. The offensive line, if it's healthy, it's much better than it was last year. And they have some sneaky weapons at receiver. They like Wan'Dale Robinson a lot in the inside, so they definitely need that outside receiver. And his tracking ability downfield and his hands downfield, his contested catch ability downfield, just opens up another level to this Giants offense, this Brian Daboll offense, which he wants. Like he wants that piece in the offense. Something he had in Buffalo with, they're different players, but Diggs' ability to go get the ball downfield, his tracking ability, and Gabe Davis's contested catch ability downfield. So it's just something that would definitely fit kind of that missing link to their offense. So that was a no-brainer for me, actually. The Titans, kind of a no-brainer here with Joe Alt. They bring in Brian and Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan, known as one of the better probably the best offensive line coaches in football. Develops very, very well. He had that Browns offense line balling. So, I mean, what a perfect spot for Joe Alt. The best, not just the best offense lineman in his class, but the freakiest upside, because this guy hasn't been playing the position for that long. High school, he played tight end and defensive end. And being as good as he already is with that freakish length and, upside, like just imagine him going to the Titans and working with Callahan, one of the best minds there is. It's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect there. The Browns actually ran a lot of gap blocking schemes in the run game, and more than normal, actually. They used to be outside zone last year. So Callahan, and that, a lot of an inside zone as well, gap and inside zone, and Alt ran a lot of that with Notre Dame. So it kind of makes sense. I think it doesn't really matter with the scheme in terms of what the Titans are going to do, though. I think they're going to mix it up. I think they can coach, pretty much anybody in any scheme there with that offensive line coach they have. For the Falcons, it's weird kind of seeing Brock Bowers. Again, it's an offensive video. And it looks weird because I think we expect them to go defense and corner or pass rusher possibly, but there's always surprises in the NFL draft. Do they stay put? Do they take a best player available on offense, possibly in an offensive-loaded draft? Could they take Brock Bowers? I think it's a really good fit. You can actually pair him with Kyle Pitts and, Kirk Cousins' ability to spread the ball out, get it to different playmakers. Could be like a TJ Hawkinson type, Brock Bowers for Kirk Cousins. And again, he can pair well with Kyle Pitts. They kind of loaded up at receiver. They have running backs. So this was really the only option in terms of offense. They could trade back. I still think that would be their best fit in terms of offense in the first round here. The Jets, I also had Brock Bowers. It seems like a perfect piece for Aaron Rodgers, kind of that missing piece. They have a couple receivers. I thought about receivers here. I thought about offensive tackles as well because – they got older guys on a one-year deal at the tackle position. Tyron Smith, has the injury concern. So they very well could go tackle, but there's guys that can fit, but is there an offense tackle that, you go, yes, like that's a Jets type. I don't really have that. Bowers just feels like just that missing piece, perfect for Aaron Rodgers' offense. When he rolls out, you can find Bowers. I think you can pair him with Conklin, so it's not like Conklin's gone because of this. So I thought that made sense, and it's a realistic pick as well. Next, the Vikings. I like Drake May. You would obviously have to trade up, but they do have some ammo to be able to do that. Again, this is not a prediction video, but if I had to predict, I've been predicting May 2nd to the Commanders, so it might not be possible for the Vikings. But based on some people's opinion, it sounds like there's a possibility, and teams make the wrong decisions all the time. They're surprised all the time in draft. But Drake May is a perfect fit for Kevin O'Connell's Viking offense. What a perfect place for that young man to go with all that upside that he has. They get a lot out of their quarterbacks. They get a lot out of the passing game with those weapons. It just seems like it's so perfect. He's actually was coached by Josh McCown before as well, and he's now the Vikings quarterback coach. It just makes so much sense. So is it going to be possible, though? I think there's a percentage right now, but if the Commanders are up and they take May, then we know it was never possible. But we won't know that for sure until it actually happens, because that's the draft for you. Next, I'll go J.J. McCarthy for the Broncos. People comparing linking Bo Nix, and I have before too. It just seems like a Sean Payton type of quarterback, but why can't we go with a little bit more upside here? Sean Payton wants to find his guy, he wants to handpick his guy, and he wants to work with his guy. He wants a guy with a lot of upside, and to me, McCarthy could be that guy. Just a little bit extra juice than Bo Nix, a lot more upside as well. So I thought that seemed like a Sean Payton type guy. That's also a realistic pick. They honestly could. It's a scenario where they stay put and get him. I know people think the Vikings probably would take him, but what if the Vikings go up and get Drake May? Or the Broncos could trade up and get him as well. Next, Raiders fans, or some people might not like this one, but it's a lazy reasoning why they might not like it, because he's an Alabama offensive tackle. And the last one, Leatherwood, didn't work out too well. I wasn't a huge Leatherwood guy. I also ranked him as a guard. I didn't like him at tackle. I thought he would be a decent guard, possibly. Latham I like. I think he's a really solid right tackle, and he actually played guard pretty well as well. So I think worst case, he's a good guard. But he's a tackle to me all day, and he's a good one. If he's there, people aren't talking about it because I know would they not want to take a Bama guy? I don't see anybody thinking like that. I know the fans probably don't want one, but Latham's really good. He's a physical mauler of a right tackle, a lot of upside. obviously super powerful. I think he moves well for his size, but in their blocking scheme, yeah, I know they don't have McDaniels anymore, but they didn't have, through the second half of last year, and they kind of kept everything the same, and they played a lot better. So I think it was more of a leadership thing. So I think they're kind of keeping everything similar. It's tough, though, because they could switch things up a little bit, and if they want to run more outside zone, then it would be Thalys Fuaga would be a much better fit, which you see him locked there quite a bit. But this just seems like their type of what they've been doing, what they did at the end of last year in terms of blocking. And maybe a comparison for last year, if you want to go back a draft, Darnell Wright, who I actually really liked for the Raiders. I wanted them to take him, and he had a pretty decent rookie year, and they end up with Tyree Wilson. But Latham is, I think, a better prospect than Darnell Wright in kind of similar situation here this year. So I do think it's a really solid fit. It's just people don't see it just because he's a Bama tackle, but we'll see what happens there. I would like that pick if they stayed put at 13 and they got him. I would like it. For the Saints, I go to Thalys Fuaga. They definitely need a tackle, whether it's left or right, because their right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk, it sounds like he could miss this year because of an injury, so unfortunate. But this is just seems like the replacement here. Pretty quick mover, but also has some physicality to him as well. Really good outside zone. If they ever need him at guard, I'd imagine they draft him, they play him at tackle. But if Ramczyk comes back and maybe Penning starts to work at left tackle, they could put Fuaga at guard. He'd be a really good guard as well. But I'd imagine you draft him for tackle, he probably stays there. But it just seems like that Ramczyk type guy that they would like here, and possibly at pick 14. The Colts, I think this one's pretty easy. I think Brock Bowers, you don't see it mocked much. You see a lot of defensive players mocked to the Colts. But, man, this seemed for a Steichen offense, for Anthony Richardson, him scrambling, rolling out in space, being able to have that option to get it to Brock Bowers. It seems like this is actually one of my favorite fits of this video. So it had me thinking, could the Colts move up a little bit and just make this offense that much better, more dangerous? It just seems like a perfect fit to me. They would probably have to get ahead of the Jets with that pick. I know the Bears looking for more picks, so could that 9-15, could that be interesting swap there to go up and get Brock Bowers? I think that one makes a lot of sense. It's kind of something there. The last piece of the puzzle maybe they're missing on offense. For the Seahawks, I go with Troy Fautanu. It's a little obvious because they have Washington's offense coordinator, Ryan Grubb, is now the offense coordinator with Seattle Seahawks. So could you go Michael Penix? Could that be a fit as well? Thought about more of the interior players, Powers Johnson perhaps. But Fautanu, the issue is they want to be set at left tackle at cross. So does Fautanu play guard? He played tackle for Grubb, so a little interesting. But I do think he has a lot of upside either position, but especially guard, which they could use help at. So a little bit of a connection there on that one. In the Jags, I'm going to go Adonai Mitchell from Texas. I think it's perfect mesh, perfect fit with Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk, slot receiver, speedy. Gabe Davis, more of that contested catch possession outside receiver. Now you need another outside receiver that got a little wiggle to him, got a little speed, a little quickness, a little separation over the middle of the field, rather than Gabe Davis is more of a sideline guy. So I thought Mitchell fit that more than Brian Thomas Jr. So they could go defense. If they go offense, I do think this is a really solid fit. For the Bengals, I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. Thought about some of the offensive linemen. That definitely could be the case where they can go defense. But in terms of just straight up fit, you got a guy like T. Higgins on the franchise tag. And what makes the Bengals so good? I mean, they have a star quarterback, but their receivers are stars as well. And they having that talent, that takeover type, game-changing talent. And T. Higgins, could this be it? Or could they trade him? Could they trade him in the draft if they get their guy? It's definitely possible, but just in terms of just pure fit, Brian Thomas Jr. is that T. Higgins type player. Another LSU guy here with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Contested catch guy, got that speed to separate downfield. It just seems like a Bengals receiver if they were going to replace T. Higgins. So I actually thought a little bit of a wild card one there, but I thought that made a lot of sense. And with the same thing for the Rams, they've been trying. They've been looking for an outside receiver because, Nakua and Kupp, kind of shifty. They do really well from the slot. They've been trying to get that outside receiver. and they missed with Allen Robinson, but to me, Brian Thomas fits very well. Outside contested catch guy, but he's a burner deep, and Matt Stafford likes to sling it. They like those guys that can burn people deep. So it just seems like a really good fit for them. Good for the red zone. Again, good for getting those big plays downfield. It just makes Nacua and Kupp that much better as well. So a type of guy they could be looking for to plug into that offense. For the Steelers, I'll go Troy Fautanu. Not really mocked much. He could be gone, honestly, by that point when they pick. He definitely could be there. They could move up a little bit, but it just seems like a left tackle for them, and they could be looking to upgrade that left tackle spot. Experience doing inside zone gap, but when the somewhat limited reps where he was blocking an outside zone, like he looked like a natural. Looked like he had upside there, and it kind of reminds me of Broderick Jones last year. Like raw prospect, he was not good blocking in Georgia's main scheme. That's why most of the tape on Broderick Jones was not that good. But that was more of a man slash gap blocking, like straight north. But when they did their outside zone looks and they pulled those guys, he looked like a natural out there. And that's what Steelers were kind of gearing towards. So I think Fautanu has experience really with everything, but I think he has upside in that scheme, what they're trying to do with Arthur Smith, in a very quick mover too. I think they'll like that. And he, at left tackle, but does have the ability to play guard. Thought about some of the centers, Jackson Powers-Johnson and Graham Barton for them as well. But I thought this one made the most sense. A little bit similar to a situation of Broderick Jones. You kind of they compare with him to be that kind of that tackle duo there. For the Dolphins, I go Talise Fuaga. I guess there's a chance he can be here because I heard of some teams just like him as a guard. So how high would those teams take him? And that could limits the teams that would actually be looking for a tackle that could take him. So I think there's a shot he could be here. Probably would have to trade up a little bit. I think it's a tackle that just really fits Mike McDaniel's offense. In terms of the outside zone scheme. So that was a really good fit. They definitely can use a tackle upgrade or a tackle upgrade on the right, tackle for the future on the left over Terran Armstead. Yeah. So next I got the Eagles, Amarius Mims. I've mocked this before too. The Eagles they know how important offensive line is. They're really good at kind of getting that next man up before it's like too late. They don't want to have that part of season where they're like, oh, now we need a guy. We better get one next offseason. No, they want to have that next guy up. They also like former big-time recruits, big-time players that went to big-time schools, specifically Georgia. Amarius Mims seems to be that guy, and he kind of can be waiting in the wing, behind Lane Johnson, but could they get some reps out of him early? Of course. So I thought that made sense as an Eagles-type guy, Eagles-type fit here in the first round. And then for the Cowboys, I'll go Graham Barton. They like their versatile offensive linemen, and they definitely need a center. Barton would fit in at center, but he can play guard if you need him to. If you want to move Tyler Smith to tackle because he's really good there, but they want to start him at guard, you could put Barton at guard, or you could put Barton at tackle because he played well there at Duke, left tackle this year, and you can keep Tyler Smith at guard, so I think the Cowboys would like that, but I do think it's a plug-and-play fit at center. Thought about some of the tackles here, but thought this one is in terms of a fit, like a Cowboys fit, what they look for, what they need. This one made the most sense here. Packers, I'll go Jackson Powers-Johnson. They could upgrade at center. They definitely could upgrade at right guard, and they like the tough physical guys that also are versatile. They kind of draft some of these guys that could he play tackle? Could he play guard? Or is he a guard that can also slide out to tackle? And Powers-Johnson actually played right tackle a couple years ago, like I said. So having that versatility is pretty big, but it would be an upgrade in either that center or right guard spot for the Green Bay Packers. It just seems like their type of guy. Then we got Graham Barton again for the Bucs. Yeah, I think he's either going to be a center or left guard. If I'm getting specific, I would love to see him at left guard, but it sounds like most likely it's going to depend on what team takes him. He could play guard, but again, he did play pretty well at tackle, just lacking that length. But the Bucs could use an upgrade at left guard or center. It just seems like a guy they would bring in, and it would be an upgrade for either spot with Graham Barton. So in their part of the draft, that range, it does make a lot of sense. The Bills, a little bold here because they pick, and again, it's not really a prediction, but they pick a little bit down the list. So if I had to go with like if they were to stay put or if they move up a little bit, Adonai Mitchell is probably who I would pick here. But one of my favorite fits in the draft is Rome Odunze to the Bills. It's just Josh Allen, a Bills receiver, type fit here. Downfield, contested catch ability, good downfield tracker. It's just such a perfect fit. Go up and get this guy if he starts to slide. Or even if he doesn't start to slide, if you just want to go way up and just, because how much better would they be? Like Josh Allen and a fresh, young, elite prospect that just fits them so perfectly. It's just so good. I just had to do it. It's just so good. In our most recent mock, we actually had that scenario where they go up to 9 with the Bears. But another one, Adonai Mitchell, I think would probably be the next choice. Or Brian Thomas Jr. Either one you can go. I just love that fit there. For the Lions, I go Adonai Mitchell. They're, for offense, they got their offensive line's really good, and they're really good at coaching it. Don't see them taking a quarterback down here. Running back, they're set. Tight end, they're pretty much set there. It just leaves receiver, and they actually do need an outside receiver. St. Brown's one of the very best slot receivers, if not the best, in football. So they needed like a true outside receiver that's going to be consistent. And dropping the ball in the NFC Championship was a little bit of a thing. So, go get a guy that can play outside and be legit. So I thought about Mitchell and Brian Thomas Jr. as kind of that dream fit in the first round. That's, kind of realistic, somewhat realistic. You have to move up a little bit. And I think the difference between the two is Brian Thomas Jr. is more of like a boundary guy. He's a little better on the contested catch. They're both good contested catch. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is better going straight and trying to burn someone downfield. But he's more of a boundary sideline guy, where Mitchell could be that boundary guy, but he works the middle of the field. He will run NFL routes. He had a whole complete route tree. And the Lions really aren't a work the boundaries type team, like throw to the sideline, throwing down the sideline much. Like they're, they like scheming things up. They like getting guys going across the middle of the field, and that is more Mitchell than Thomas. So I thought that was more of a fit when in my head kind of debating the two guys. And then next we got the Ravens, and I thought about two Georgia guys here. You go Ladd McConkey from Georgia, and you go Mims from Georgia. Does it feel like Ravens guys? First off, then you have Todd Monken, who coached them both at Georgia. That's a bonus right there, so we know they fit. McConkey, Zay Flowers plays a lot in the slot. McConkey does. The other receivers they got kind of do as well. It's just kind of, the type of receiver they like, so they could just go with that, but they need something different that can take over on the outside. And Mims is a perfect fit at right tackle, which can actually come in and start and has the upside. They need offensive lineman pretty badly, and I know Todd Monken's gonna be high on him. So that just one of the ones that just felt yes, like that's the one right there for the Ravens and Mims. The Niners, I'm going to go Talise Fuaga, and they would have to trade up a bit. This one as a fit stood out much more than the rest, and I can see the Niners doing this because offensive line has been so great in the past, but it took a little bit of a hit last year. Like it wasn't that great, and it wasn't awful, but it hurt them a little bit. Maybe in the Super Bowl or trying to get to the Super Bowl. Man, the sun's really getting me right now. And so they could use a guy, and they did, they do have they added one more year to McKivitz, obviously his deal, their right tackle, but this would be an upgrade, and there's a lot of talk about Fuaga playing guard. It'd be a major upgrade at right guard for them as well. Perfect fit compared to all the rest of the offensive linemen. It's weird. Most of the offensive line class, they're familiar more with like the gap or inside zone scheme. The 49ers run a ton of outside zone. Fuaga is probably the best in that category. So by far the best fit, whether they're going to put him at tackle or guard for the Niners in the first round. They would have to move up if he starts to slide. There's a scenario where he slides. I don't see them going way up to like 12, 13, whatever in that range where if you absolutely have to have him, that's like where you probably have to go. But if he does slide past that range, maybe the Niners make a move there. And then for the Chiefs, I'm going to go Jordan Morgan, which he's growing on me more and more. He is lacking the length that you look for NFL tackles, which could make teams put him at guard, but he's a tackle. His strengths and weaknesses say tackle over guard. He's a really, really good pass protector there. He needs to go to a team that plays quick, and they pass the ball way more than running the football. Kansas City Chiefs, they need a left tackle. He'd definitely be really, really solid there. He's a really good pass protector, and forget about like length, like traits like that, and take away the run blocking, which he's not awful at. I don't want to make it sound like that. You're just going straight pass protector, which is more to it than that. But if straight pass protector, he's a middle first round at worst guy. So factor that in a little bit. I do really like this fit. And there are some receivers that would work. that I almost put here: Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Leggett. Those guys would make sense as well. And the teams that don't have a first-round pick, it kind of made sense to go with the first-round guy for the Panthers. Why? Because they have the first pick in the second round. So there's always surprises, always surprising guys that drop. First-round players drop to the beginning of the second, or they could possibly move up a little bit if they have to. Perfect fit here for Dave Canales' offense. They have Thielen, who's a really good slot receiver. They had Deontay Johnson, who plays both. He plays a little bit better from the slot. They've been looking for an outside receiver. They need an outside receiver. Dave Canales needs that Mike Evans. This is that guy. This is that guy here. So move up a little bit. Get yourself first-round pick contract, those 5 years. Get a guy that fits perfectly. That'd be great. That'd be great for the Panthers. He would need to slide a little bit first because he's rangy. Like, he could go, he can go as high as 9 to the Bears, or he can go down at like the Bills pick. So a little rangy there. Panthers got some sort of shot, but we'll see. And the next two teams don't really have a crack at a first-round guy. The Texans, I'm going to go Dominic Pooney. I think it's a really good fit. They run a lot of outside zone. He's got experience with multiple blocking schemes, but he had a lot of reps, especially compared to other offensive linemen in this class in terms of outside zone. So Pooney, and he's a tough dude, likable guy, fun tape. I just think the Texans would like him. He could help them at left guard right away. He would be in competition to start at that spot, but he was really good this year at left tackle. Like, I'm pretty even. Like, honestly, it's weird because usually it's like the opposite, but he might be better at left tackle right now, but he has upside, like a higher ceiling at guard. But yeah, Tunsil has the injury concern, so you kind of get a guy that could start at guard but then start at tackle if he goes down. It just makes some sense there. Excuse me. And then for the Browns, Omega-Deje from Yale. It seems like they'll probably go defense, the Browns. This is an interesting one, but they've had injuries on the offensive line, so looking for another guy, because Conklin continues to get injured. Jedrick Wills has been, injured, not living up to expectations. So it's, if they're going to go with an offensive lineman this early, which it's not first round for them, get a guy that's like probably right away a quality backup, but that could start for you. And it just seems like a good fit on the left side for them. And they're pretty good. I know they don't have Callahan anymore, but they're pretty good at developing these guys, getting the most out of these guys. So it's a guy with a lot of upside and potential here. So thought that one made some sense. So there you have it. All 32 teams, best offensive fit, mainly focusing on day one. We'll do the same video for defense, and if we have a lot of content to get to if we have time, and this video is a popular one, we'll do the same thing for day two fits and then possibly day three. But we got sleeper videos, big boards, rest of my position rankings, mock drafts, a lot to get to for this fantastic time of the year. Join us on Twitter as well. Check out our sponsors, code GOAT, GLD Shop, Liquid IV. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.